Warszawa, and that's it. We'll be there for 2 days, 2 or 3 days. There are best courses, like courses on education. So we go with a lot of people to see the work, see what they're doing. And then I don't know yet if I find cheap tickets to go to Greece, to Patras. Because there, yeah, I also have plans there. There is a local event for the end of July, and go back home for work. I have 2 days of tourist conference that I have to go. And then beginning of August is what kind of plan is for Portugal or of course, I would choose Portugal. Keep it to reasonable 300 euros.
Yes, yes.
And also there it's much more expensive than Ukraine.
Yeah, for sure, but Portugal is also an expensive country in relation to some other, some other European states.
And that can be developed. And then go to Montenegro to have a house in Europe. Between Alabama and that's going to be some. And then from about the end of August starts again the season is
You can work as a guide in us as well.
Not just open,
but mostly.
Well, actually, the leads. Coffee as well, but mostly I guide tours that are either home Macedonia or Balkan trips. So very often I go to Serbia and Albania, constant traveling. And you?
No, yeah, I will probably go to Festival. Yeah,
Cheap and close.
beginning of July. Then maybe when to go to Brussels, it's like a profession. With dates, then facilitate some sessions. Then to go to Croatia for holiday. And then come back and it's going to be August. So nice. Yeah. So August is going to for 2 weeks celebrate, then go to Boston for some annual event there. It's more than 75 people. 7 years so far. So be there, probably get a couple of days on the staying to the Balkan. This is my favorite part of the year. Very Balkan. And then there's going to be September. September we have an event in Spain, which is the third training course in Molina. It's going to be the third training course for them. Within one long-term project for the rest, so we can participation and doing some local actions in order to boost the participation in local levels related to this. And yeah, I don't know.
Do you do something else other than?
I used to not to go. I was part of the municipality council in charge for youth, so I was playing there.
Belgium.
Yeah. So once it's perfect now, maybe we should start.
Yeah, sure.
Because I asked them to turn off the device there and just go watch on one device. It's much easier because of the internet. Because if you have a 20 device, the internet connection is shared and even the weak signal is getting weaker. Yeah. Taking the rest. Already? Okay.
Are we using the brain?
Yeah, perfect. So, hello and good afternoon to everyone. This online conference is about to start. And first of all, I want to thank the speakers, and also want to say that this online conference related to hate speech and boosting youth participation is within the project supported by supported by Erasmus Plus, and provided by GMB Lithuania. So we're going to discuss a couple of topics important for youth participation at the same time for combating hate speech. So the remote participants will have an opportunity to raise any issue related to the topics by just put their comments and their remarks in the chat within YouTube live streaming. So we're gonna try to give the floor to the participants and to give opportunity to ask and to maybe some clarification needed from their side, and we're gonna ask our speakers to be as precise as possible in order to meet the needs of the participants and the objective of this conference. So at the beginning, I would like to give a floor to people who are more in charge into hate speech and combating hate speech. So we can start to discover this topic, which was one of the main part of our training course. So I would like to give the floor to Shakira and to try to a bit closely define hate speech in general and maybe some potential examples of hate speech that we defined in the last couple of days. So.
Hello everybody. First of all, we need to do some definition of hate speech. It's about expressing, spreading, promoting, justifying racial hatred, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, and other forms of hate, intolerance, which include intolerance to specify aggressive nationalism, discrimination, and ethnocentrism, discrimination about minorities, migrant, and people of migrant origin. Well, then we talk about where we can find hate speech, like we can meet it everywhere, like social media and mass media. Where it's like when you use it, someone sharing posts, events, articles, humiliate and offend, hurt one or more people's feelings because of their maybe skin color, maybe
You just
choices.
raise your voice because it's technical conditions. So just be louder,
Okay.
like this.
Origin and social status. How we can find this hate speech? It's like we have to first of all to react it, report it, connect directly in this way, but never we should like it, share it, or comment it publicly. Because it helps hate speech spread more. That's all now.
Yeah. It's good for the first round. We're gonna make some kind of general comments, general inputs in the first round, and then we're gonna go more deeply into the topics, and of course we're gonna leave some space for your comments and for your remarks. So I would like to pass the floor to Emma, who's more gonna elaborate one particular topic related to hate speech, which is bullying, and something that we are facing with in on everyday level, and something that we really, as the youth workers, as the youth organizations, are supposed to carry about, and also to think how we can combat it and how we need to raise awareness about this problem in not just in schools but in different kinds of institutions, and something that we need first of all to know more about it, and then to provide some examples how we can solve it. So I pass the floor to Emma.
First of all, thank you for inviting us here. It's a real pleasure. And I will follow with the introduction of our group. We also dealt with the topic about hate speech, but we decided to put a specific insight into this big and broader issue. So we decided to speak about bullying. Um, there is not a universal definition of bullying around the world. It happens everywhere, but people usually agree that it is any type of aggressive behavior that it is directed towards an individual or group of people and whose intention is to hurt another person. Usually it is provoked by differences either in social class, either in race, gender, or maybe even appearance. Um, when we talk about possible examples, as you have said, there are many examples of bullying around us. However, we can talk about some examples, for example, individual bullying or group bullying, cyber bullying, and also school bullying or kids bullying, which is the most common type. Uh, when we speak about the solutions, there is not a single solution to this problem. Everybody must have their input, the parents, the schools, the responsible institutions. But the most important thing is to raise the awareness of this topic and just to have an open communication and speak about it and try to solve it in the best possible way by including everyone.
Okay, thank you, Emma. I think it's good for opening about this topic, and then we're gonna move to the next topic and next introductions related to presentations and how we should improve our presentations in order presentation skill in order to be more attractive for not for local youth, for different youth organizations, but at the same time for decision makers and for someone who can help us and support us in conducting our activities. So I will pass forward to Dimitri, who's going to elaborate more on this issue, and I think it's something that all of us, whether we are planning to be involved more into youth sector or we just want to improve our soft skills, is something that all of us should be aware of. So I pass forward to Dimitri.
Thank you. So I will address three, I would say, quite important questions. First one is what is a good presentation for you, or what would be a good presentation for the audience? Most important for me is that it should be interesting. You should make the presentation interesting and interactive with the audience. So to include the audience in the presentation, not just show them the slides or sort of flip charts where you did some research, but to include them in the presenting and the story. Also, I will add that it's good to make the presentation more like a narrative story, to make it not just pure information, just edit or made PowerPoint slides, but to try to make it as a whole story. Even if you can include a personal story, it's even better because it promotes emotions. People can not include, but okay, involve, yeah, involve themselves. Okay. And at the end, I think that we should end when we end the presentation, it should be a thought-provoking thing that the audience, the people who saw your presentation, at the end will leave the room and will keep thinking about the subject. It will stay with them for the whole day. The next question is some do's and don'ts, or what we should and shouldn't do.
But maybe we can save it for the second round, so to make just introductory from all five topics, and then we can go back to this more like practical tips and tricks for someone who wants to improve their presentation. So now I think it's quite important for boosting youth participation is how we can motivate young people really to be part of our organizations and to support activities carried out by our organization. I think something which we really need to know is and to discuss the different methods how we can involve more people in our organizations, because all of us are facing with a lack of participation all over Europe, and it's not so related to the economic development, because we have like a lot of countries which are very well developed, but have this kind of a problem, and it's the same, and the same happens in the countries who are economically underdeveloped. So I know that Vicky and her group were discussed a lot about this issue, and I will be glad to hear from her side what they think, how we should improve and boost youth participation on local level. So I'll pass more to her.
Thank you. Well, I think that one of the biggest problems today is the fact that young people are not quite motivated. I mean, there are so many problems and serious ones, but young people just tend to ignore the problems. And uh,
Yeah, continue. If you have some technical issues, but some problem. Yeah. You can we're gonna focus the speaker like in on the screen, and that's how we're gonna make a microphone closer. It's gonna be better sound there. Yeah. So just have a close up of a speaker in order to make my microphone closer to us. Yeah, because I realized that we have some problem with sound. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Vicky, please continue.
yes, I was saying that one of the problems nowadays is the fact that we tend to ignore all the social problems around us, and not only social, in the problems in general. But this cannot, obviously, this cannot change anything at all. And in my opinion, young people can truly play a vital role in solving the problem because they have the energy, they are the young members of our society, so they can build something in a way of investment for the future. But of course, if we want to talk about a really important change and a really great change. We cannot hope that it will come by itself one day. We should start by small steps on a local level, and that's why, and that's how local youth organizations can be very very helpful because you start from a small team and this small team gradually becomes bigger and bigger day by day and then more and more people know about the problem, more and more people are informed, so the change then is can truly is realistic. Okay? And the problem is that nowadays there are people who want, young people who want to help, but they don't know how to do it because youth organization, for example, are not so popular, and that's what we should think about how we're going to motivate young people and how we're going to make youth organizations more attractive to them.
I think it's good. It's enough for this first round, and then in the second we can speak about some specific issues related to the things you mentioned. So thank you, Vicky. And now we came to the fifth topic of this online conference, and we're gonna speak more about how to raise visibility of our organization and activities that are provided by our organization. Ines is today with us, and he and his group were discussing a lot about this issue, and also we're going to try to identify why some of our very nice and successful activities somehow stay below the radar from the local youth. So I think it's a very important issue and something that we need to care about, and that's why we invited our friend Ines, who's expert in this field, to tell us how we should raise visibility of our activities in order to make them more attractive to local youngsters. So Ines, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for nice words. Hello everybody. It's my honor to participate in this online conference. Yes, I'm gonna talk about raising visibility problems, and
I would like to concentrate about why young people not interested in activities of NGOs, youth organizations. So I think one of the problem is it's hard to get them interest because there is a lot of professional, media which uh, have more beautiful, for example, videos and so on. So we see every day good products, let's say attractive products. So one of the problems and one of the challenges, let's say, how to make our organization attractive. Yes, as well, what kind of people we would like to reach, what kind of people we want to get know what is our organization and what we do, and what kind of members researching. So it's really important to know why you want to increase your visibility and the strategy how to do it.
Thank you. It's enough for this round, and I think it's time to make another round, and which gonna be more specific and give some practical issues for the people that are watching us. And I know that people that are now in a live streaming of this conference actually are members of different organizations within Youth for Change Understanding International Network, and also some volunteers of local organizations, and someone who really are keen to learn more about the topics we covered here. So if you want to speak more about hate speech and to be more specific, can you make Shakira please give us let's say some overview of most common hate speech examples and maybe some potential solutions to them, because I know that you in this training course identify a lot of examples and maybe some that you consider as the most significant is going to be very useful to share with our participants in this conference. So please elaborate more on this topic.
Well, hate speech many times, as I saw, addressed to migrants, Muslim society, minorities, like in Muslim countries like women, and like that. Well, about migrants, yes, many people in Europe, maybe in some other places, don't like it, maybe because of something. But it couldn't be improved like a hate speech. Usually it has another reasons, another solutions. And for me, when I see someone talks about migrants in like hate speech, I have to report it. I have to react it because sometimes it's not good to just keep silent and do nothing. That's all.
Okay, and I know we can continue with the bullying topic, because we also need to know some concrete examples and some potential solutions for it, because I know that it's very important to be very precautious related to these things and to react on time, not to leave the problem expand, because it's much easier to deal with some kind of these problems when they're in the starting stage of their development, not to wait to be something which we cannot control properly. So I know that Emma has a lot of examples to share with us, but let's pick a couple of them which you consider the most important and give us some overview of some potential campaign or some kind of solutions that you found successful.
Yes, as I have mentioned, cyberbullying is one of the most common types of bullying around us. And some of the ways in which we can stop it is the use of internet and the social media outlets. For example, you can either block the user that has bullied you, save the content so you can have a certain proof that really happened. And also you can report it to either Facebook, Twitter, or other social media networks. But as you have said, you must react as soon as possible so that it is successful. You must not wait for it to become an even greater problem. And when we speak about other common types of bullying, I will mention the school bullying of kids. And I think that this is a more serious bullying problem. And there are many ways in which we can solve it. I think that we should start at the local level. Maybe parents and school teachers should gather together, find solutions, and also build some campaigns or some organizations in which they can share their problems openly, communicate about this issue, and thus try to incorporate all the community and solve the problem. And also, I think from the emotional aspect, because bullying can have many negative effects like anxiety or depression, we should create some sense of empathy around us. Maybe we can use negative statistics to show the terrible effects of bullying to the children, and in that way we can see how it affects others, and we can become aware that what they're doing is not fine, and maybe will be one step to solving this problem. But as I have said, there is not a single solution to bullying, and everyone can have their opinion and contribute. So I think that we as a community must all act together and solve it somehow in the best way.
Thank you for this input, because I think it's very important to know and to have an overview about this very particular and specific way of hate speech expression. But also, I think when we are talking about presentation and improving presentation skill, it's not just important because of individuals that should improve themselves by all means in the, as we call it, lifelong learning process. But it's also important for making all of these examples of there's Emma and Shakida told us about much more visible and presented in the way that youth can understand them, and at the same time can take as something very serious and important for not just their development, but also for as a very important social issue. So maybe Dimitri can provide us with some kind of tips and tricks how we should improve our presentations related to these topics or to some other, but in general, how we can improve ourselves in some format of do's and don'ts, and I think it can be very helpful for our participants there.
Yeah. So to continue where I stopped on the previous part, we would identify a few do's and don'ts, or more easily said, tips and tricks on how to do a good presentation. And I will start with the do's. Some of them overlap with the ones I already said, but there to include the audience in the presentation or in the speech. Also, that it's good if you can make a narrative story. And one of the most important ones, I would say, is have a good posture and use your body language. Body language is very important in presentation, in public speeches, in life in general, but especially in the presentations, because by many researches, people don't listen too much to the words of what is said, but to how they are said and how the person presented them, presented the story or the speech to them. And also, if you are doing a presentation as a simple presentation, it's good to have interesting photos, interesting diagrams, not just the text, a lot of text on the slides. Those are some of the most important do's. To go to the don'ts, or things that you shouldn't do, they're not advisable, are never turn your back on the audience. Always be facing towards the audience.
regardless where you're showing the presentation, you should always be facing the audience. Also, well, I mentioned don't use too much paragraphs and text. Never fold your hands. It's because that symbolizes a defensive stance, and that way you make like a invisible wall in the audience. Or never put your hands in your pockets. Don't speak in a monotone. Don't speak in the same tone. It bores the audience, and they tend to lose their patience, interest in what your presentation is. Also, another important the thing that you shouldn't do is never have too many objects in your hand. Like don't be with paper, with I don't know, coffee cup or pants, and so on. So these are some of the more important tips and tricks. And
yeah, we could continue like with this, but I'm sure that some training course related to these skills for sure can be provided for the youth workers and people that are dealing with this stuff. But we are going back to the to the problem of lack of youth participation. And from Vicky's side, in the previous round, we got one very important overview about this situation. But now we can go further and make maybe more deep into the topic and try to provide our participants with different solutions and some possible options how we can bridge this gap in the future. So, Nikki, please.
So, as I said before, I believe that nowadays there are two groups of people, of young people. There are young people who are interested in problems of our society and they want to help, they really want to help, but they just don't know how to do it because they're not familiar with local youth organizations, etc. And for those people, I believe that we need to advertise better the local youth organizations because something which is in your community is the first step. You can learn things and later go on to something bigger and bigger. So here, for example, we need all the knowledge about how to do a presentation, etc. It's all a combination. But of course, apart from people who, okay, they're interested in problems, they want to help, but they don't know how. There are also many young people who are not interested, who tend to ignore the problem because they believe that there's nothing they can do, but there is. So I think that for these young people, there are many ways, many tools that could be used by youth organizations in order to raise their motivation. For example, they could organize events where people could go and get more information about the problems discussed and about the actions that the local this local organization organizes. Because it's totally different when you hear something, when you tell something in person, face to face, and when, okay, I had something, I read something somewhere. So organizing events. Of course, apart from that, campaigns could also play a very important role. And by campaigns, I mean videos, posters, images, anything that uses the power of picture, because the power of the image. Because once again, when we talk about something, it may be very important, it may be very good results, but an image counts much more. So use images. And for all the above, and all things that we can come up with, all the thoughts, we could use the media. For example, I think that the easiest way nowadays is the internet and especially social media because they're so popular among young people and popular is powerful. So we can use this power in order to advertise our actions, our organization, whatever we want. just use social media and internet. And apart from that, when we talk about motivation, especially motivation of young people, we should keep in mind their need because we cannot motivate somebody without knowing what they need. So since in youth organizations participate young people, they could share their opinion what they need, and most or many young people may share these common interests. So on using as a basis the common interests, the hobbies, the love for traveling, for example, there could be an extra motivation, and all these could be combined to have a good result.
Thank you, Vicky, for providing these very good examples and a practice which is really important for us. And now it can be combined with Igna's topic because it's boosting participation and raising visibility of the activities carried out by youth organizations is something which can correlate and be part of one project or of one task. So, Ignas, please tell us maybe more specifically, what do you think, how we should improve visibility of activities carried out by our organizations, at the same time, maybe to, as Dimitri did, in some format of tips and tricks, and based on your experience, to provide some advices to our youngsters how they should be more visible and how their activities put on a higher level of visibility.
For a question, yeah, it was really related, just two last speeches. And how to use the techniques that will expand your visibility. One of the techniques would be like take a lot of powerful pictures because probably we have first of all, why we need to expand the visibility? Because we will have more human resources, or because normally there is not a lot of financiation for economic, but you can find the financiation with human resources, and then you can have a lot of talents in your, let's say, organization. And if you can use those talents, like you can ask if somebody knows how to do nice pictures, another person how to do nice videos, and you need to make a lot of powerful pictures and videos and put it in different channels like Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, etc. Another tip would be avoid videos and avoid pictures because I was participating in various Erasmus projects, and I saw like organizers putting a lot of videos like that which participants like it because there is like inside jokes and we remember the feelings. But for a wild audience, it's boring. Like nobody understands what's happening. So all the videos and all the pictures should be very clear. Which kind of idea, which kind of message do you want to say for the people who wasn't participating in that video? So it should be very obvious idea. As well, we need to involve a lot of local people to the projects. Let's say if you are organizing an international project, it would be very good thing to involve local people per coach surfing channel, because in the couch surfing channel there is a lot of young people who are super interested in learning new cultures and learning new people, and they would come, let's say for an event, social and gathering event. It could be like a cultural night or something, and like we could speak about common interest, and at the same time, we like normally conversation start very calm and what you're doing here, and the conversation starts, and it would be we would be informed about our organization, what we do, and you will get like more interest and more people what we know what we do.
Thank you for this specific approach and also for providing us with more details related to the topic we covered. So maybe if someone still has something to say about the topic of there that is still stayed unclear maybe or not covered thoroughly, so please, if there is some of you who wants to raise something more, or we can move to some questions that I received on my private Twitter account. So, do you know?
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
it.
am I something in addition?
Yeah. When it comes to bullying, I think that the most important thing is to react because only reaction can make the change and not to stay silent, especially in this type of program of hate speech. So react, and that is the only way that you can make a difference.
Okay, great, thank you for this. So as I said, like the first question is for Dimitri about presentation and who personally inspires you as a good speaker. So like it's not necessarily supposed to be connected to youth organizations, but in general. And why? That's like a question that I received from one of our remote participants.
As good speakers, I've watched quite a lot of public speaking, not public, but videos about public speaking, about presenting, about storytelling, because it's connected with my work, and also I like this subject. And also, I really like stand-up comedians. I think that they are one of the best people for this thing because they use comedy and humor to talk about very sensitive topics. And because of this humor, they can kind of have a free pass for speaking about anything they want. If they want some names, I don't know, I would say George Carlin is one of the best ones. Louis C.K. in the recent years, he's very good. Maybe Chris Rock as well. From public speakers as people, as businessmen, I wouldn't just say one person because they are not, I wouldn't say consistent. I mean, for some subjects, like one person for another person.
But you provide a lot of names, so if they want to learn more about it, they can Google those names and also to find a lot of websites where they can find very good practice and maybe video clips at the same time. Something that you already covered through this tips and tricks format, but also some very nice examples of good public speaking. So maybe the next question is for the two ladies who were in charge for hate speech, maybe to share some concrete example of maybe some example of a hate speech which made a huge impression on you because of something. So maybe I know that you identified a lot of examples, but maybe if you can like make a difference and take one and explain us why this example made the biggest impression on you.
In general or in program?
We can say in general. So if there's something that you want to share with us, I just realized that. Yeah.
To me, it was the one with the Pale Girl and the makeup. It really left an impression on me, and it talks about certain issues that we're dealing with every day and can be very critical to sensitive people when it comes to appearance. And it had a really good message, so I really liked it. And that we should not judge people by their appearance and that we should be careful with our words because those are things that stuck in our mind and really can hurt. So I really like that example.
Okay, great. Shakira, maybe you, if there is something.
From yes, we at sessions we watch too many videos and which help us to understand and stage. And just a few hours ago, I read an article on Facebook.
It's louder because
Yeah.
microphone. Yeah.
I saw an article on Facebook. I had a post. Just like news, some news about one family where when the wife gone is from home, and the husband just had interview with a journalist, and the journalist posted this interview in his Facebook account. Of course, because the woman just gone, that's why there were many comments, hating comments by family, like husband, like that, and I just want to say that maybe that article was not just some information, but the comment was just
Something that made a good
yeah,
impression.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing this. And also, what we were thinking about boosting participation and visibility and everything. So we have a question: do you have some example from your cities, from your local communities, good one or bad one, that you maybe personally or you heard that someone else did something in the fields of raising visibility and boosting participation, and maybe to share some results related to some campaign in this field. So if there is something that you can answer on this question, I will be glad to give you a floor. Because it's a question for both of you. Yeah.
Well, I come from Thessaloniki, a Greek city, and there are quite a few youth organizations, but they are not so well known. And just a month ago, there was a festival organized by all the youth organizations of the city together. It was called Factory Festival, and it had a very, very good awareness, he said, because many young people went there and there were presentations. Each youth organization presented itself, its actions, and it was very interesting because you could find valuable information in one place from all the local youth organizations. They cooperated very well. And there were also music events. It was a festival. Today it's a festival. So it attracted the attention of young people to what is this. So yeah, it was good.
Okay, yeah, thanks for sharing this. Because always it's good to have this vital, some very real examples which can serve as a guideline towards achieving some of our objectives. Because this kind of common practice is something that is always most useful for us. Maybe Ines, you have something to say in addition.
Yes, I would like to say a good example of my colleagues, how they opened their own organization. So we decided to open it two years ago, 1.5 years ago, and I was really impressed of what we achieved till now. So as I was saying, like the videos and pictures is very important, and powerful videos, powerful pictures. So they immediately get over 5,000 likes in short time, and it was quite impressive. So we were using a brand, but we asking, hey, who knows how to film like nice videos, like interesting videos. All the photos we shared was not too much, but we were more concentrated to the quality of the photos. Always trying to do different things, and right now, and the name was catchy. The organization name is Act Youth, and that's why I said like we need to be very specific to everything to spread the messages. So the Facebook right now group name is EU Enhanced Training Courses or Youth Exchanges. We was like writing in the name and then just Active Youth. So it's very clear idea for the people, like we can, let's say, go to training courses to a certain country for free. So it's catching for me and you. And yeah, and we used a lot of great things.
For sure, yeah. Thank you, Ines. And also one more question that is that kind of relates to all of you is if there is a possibility that you can apply for some, let's say, Erasmus Plus project related to the topics that you covered so far. Can you elaborate a bit in which direction you would go in that case? So in which direction you would plan to make some changes in order to meet some of the lacks that that you mentioned during the presentation of your work in the last couple of days, and also during the presentation of the key problems related to the topic you were in charge for.
Which we would personally try.
Yeah, let's say that you are representative of some youth organization that can bid for some funds within Erasmus Plus project. In which direction your ideas will go, but related to the topic you were in charge for? Have you ever considered it, or maybe someone else? Let's say Emma, and others can think about it.
I think when it comes to bullying, I will start with building strong, aggressive campaigns against it, include all the possible online methods so that the outreach would be greater. Because raising awareness is the most important thing. And in that way, new people can become more open and discuss it with others. So I will focus on building campaigns for sure against violence against them.
Okay. Okay, great. Someone else maybe?
Yeah, we some consultants they was asking good and expressive. I just shared the images on Facebook and some Instagram last week. I hope it will be helpful.
Be helpful, yeah, for sure, it will be. Okay, if there is no more, I think it's also what we should what we should discuss is about the sustainability of our activity, because we have a lot of training courses, we have a lot of youth exchanges, different methods how we should try to involve as many people as possible in all of this. But how do you, let's say, estimate sustainability of all of this in the future? So what do you think? Who should be responsible in our countries, in our local communities, for implementation of this scope that you mentioned within your presentation? So who should be in charge for sharing opportunities for young people to be, let's say, more involved in the community, to be more involved in the decision-making process, or to improve their knowledge related to the hate speech, and to react and on any kind of abusive comment, or any kind of example of potential hate speech. So who should be in charge apart to apart from youth organization, because we already mentioned a lot of things that we are doing together, but who else can be our partner in implementation of some future activities?
Well, maybe government can provide some support, because they will have organizations like gender rights, like women rights, gender. Maybe kind of organization against hate speech with the
I think that schools, especially primary schools, are very important for our issue specific, because teachers can have a great influence on youngsters, and also when you build yourself as an individual, those first years of your education are very important, and if teachers try to enshrine these values of no hate and good behavior, I think that the society in general will improve. So I think that primary education, even kindergarten, is very important for, apart from the organizations, for promoting democracy.
I think it's great. Someone else, maybe? If there is some things to add, but or maybe you're already covered by others, that's no problem. Then I think we are about to close this conference, so I would just give a floor for the final final comments and remarks, or if there is something more which is still is not said enough or not elaborated enough. So I will give it one round of the final comment, and then we're gonna conclude this conference if there is no more questions from the remote participants. So if there is anyone who wants to start, maybe. Yeah, on the last comment and last inputs from your side related to the topic you were in charge for.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I can start.
Yeah.
So the last point would be how to deal with stage fright, and I think this is one of the biggest fears of every person alive. I mean, I don't know. I've read some interesting fact. I don't know how true it is. That public stage fright and public speaking is the greatest fear people have. I mean, more people are afraid of public speaking than of dying. Uh, yeah, it's funny, but it's true. Even in our groups, it was everybody would work on everything else, but it was hard to choose who would actually come and speak. Um, so some advices on how to overcome stage fright. Some that I know and that I've read more about, it's before the speech or before the presentation, you should just relax, flex your body, move your muscles, just do a little exercise. Some people prefer meditation. I personally don't, but if you're into that, I could give you that advice. Another interesting suggestion is when you're doing the presentation or the speech, especially if there is a large audience to which you're addressing, it could be very frightening. The larger the audience, the more frightening it is. It's good to focus on a few people that you find interesting, that you find likable in the audience, and focus your attention on them. You will feel much more relieved when you're speaking. You wouldn't feel like you're speaking to a mass of people, but just to a few, just like having a conversation with friends. Very important is practice and rehearsal. Yeah, everything is about preparation in every field of whatever you're doing. The better you prepare, the better you practice for the event, or in this case the speech, the easier it will be for you to deliver it. Do some preparation exercises. You can search more on that. I'm not going to go into too much details. Something else is to have very positive thoughts, to have positive thoughts about the outcome, about how you will look, how the audience will see you. If you imagine yourself that you're doing great, that you will do a great presentation, you actually will do an amazing presentation. So these are just some of the few things I could give as an advice. If you're interested in more, you can do research on your own. And I would like to thank you once again, since this is the last point. And I forgot to mention an important person that there was one question about who inspires me. Maybe it's cliche, but I will say my father, because I started the same job as he does. He's one of my greatest inspirations. So, yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Dimitri. Very nice closing, and also maybe we missed to start with this stage fright and all of this stuff that you gave us right now, because for some of us maybe it's not the first time, but let's say that we don't have so much practice in the field of public appearance. So thank you for the really good advices that individually can contribute to us, but at the same time to our organizations and activities that we are doing on regular basis. Thanks again. So maybe we should continue with youth participation, with boosting of youth participation, like a final comment. Maybe there's something that you want to emphasize, and maybe some things that still are unclear or uncovered by your side and our internal.
There isn't something that I would like to add, something new information. I just want to emphasize once more on the problem that I mentioned in the beginning, that we must not ignore the problem anymore because there are so many problems, and just pretending that everything is okay is not going to solve anything at all. And we also should believe in ourselves, I mean, young people and everyone, of course, because if I said, okay, I'm not going to solve this problem on my own, the other person will think that, okay, I'm not going to solve this problem. Well, but yes, you won't solve the problem on your own, but if we work as a team together, then we will not be individuals anymore, so our power will be much more greater.
Thank you for this. I think it's very important to think about this, about youth participation, how we can enhance better youth participation by all means, on all levels, not just on the local one, but as well regional, national, and international level, and also to try to establish good linkages with the decision makers, with the people that are in charge for, and after all, which are paid for this kind of a job, and to make all of these activities much more sustainable, and at the same time that those activities supposed to be youth oriented, and finally to expect a better achievements in this field. So thank you once again. And then we can move to the hate speech, but with specificity of bullying. We heard here a lot of things, a lot of examples, but maybe some just final comments.
Well, I don't have anything specific to add, just to remind you that when it comes to bullying, being different is the worst thing that you can do. So engage in every possible way, try to help the person in need, and only in that way, through open communication, that this problem could be solved.
Yeah, thank you. Short and simple, but very effective. Thank you.
I agree with Emma. We just have to react.
We need to react, that's for sure. That can be like a conclusion of all this. But before we formally conclude this session, I would like to ask Elias for the final comments related to visibility raising.
So the most important is preference. How you can raise visibility. So the first one is to understand why you need to do it. What's the reason? Like what you are searching, what you want to bring to that. What kind of audience do you want to reach? And the second one, when you already understand why you want to do it, is to be attractive as possible. Your messages should be attractive. Concentrate more about quality, not the quantitative. So it doesn't mean that you post a lot of pictures in your Facebook group. It doesn't mean like everybody gonna see it. We're gonna just ignore it. But you gonna concentrate on quality, it's gonna work. And be attractive to the target audience to reach. So if you got a video or picture created for children, so it should be palatable. And and the first one, the last but not least, is think positive and never don't think what you don't have. Always think what you have, what you can use. If you have members which put in some kind of technology, you can use it, you can ask for help. If you have any energetic people, like they can help you, and you can reach a lot of them help. And as well, think what kind of opportunities you have. Maybe like involve locals, how we can involve. So all the kind of opportunities. Maybe you can cooperate with another NGOs and so on. So once again, it's very important. Ask yourself why you need raise visibility of your youth organization. Second, be attractive as much as possible. And third, what you have.
Thank you. We are about to close this conference. I know that we have some questions that you sent us via email and our Facebook account, but we're gonna send to our speakers, and then five of them will be more than glad to respond to all of your questions. So thank you. First of all, I also to thank to GMB who organized this online conference within the project Ready, Set, Action, Proceed and Succeed, supported by Erasmus Plus and European Commission. To thank the speakers with great inputs we heard here, but I know that for 1 hour we could just to tackle the topics we were discussing here, and also it's going to be much more interesting things on our official Facebook page, which has the same name as the project. So once again, Ready, Set, Action, Proceed and Succeed. Thank you, and we'll be in touch. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you. Great conference.